I'll quickly introduce you to the panel on the next few slides. I'm going to give a background on the work that we've done and the journey that we're undertaking as far as DSO and what the drivers are. I'm going to explain in this afternoon's webinar how our decarbonisation plans and our DSO strategy fit together. I'm going to spend a bit of time running through each of the consultation documents that are out at the moment, running through a bit of detail just to help everyone understand what we've created and what we're looking for as far as feedback's concerned. And then give an opportunity for everyone to ask questions. So as Jane suggested, it's going to be 30 minutes of presentation and then about 30 minutes of opportunity to ask questions. The next slide, please, Jane. Okay, so there's only two people on the panel this afternoon. It's grand calling it a panel. I'm joined by Ian Povey, who is our strategic planning manager this afternoon, and we're going to see if we can fend all of your very difficult questions that you're going to give us later on in the session. Next slide, please, Jane. Okay, as far as background concerned, I'm sure most people know that last year in 2019, the UK government signed into law the achievement of net zero by 2050. And in the Northwest, as in other parts of the UK, some of our local stakeholders have aspirations to try and achieve net zero at a much earlier date. The largest authority in our services area, the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, which looks after about 2.8 million constituents, which is over 50% of the people that we serve in Electricity Northwest, has the aspiration to achieve net zero by 38. So because of that, that puts pressure on the work that we would need to do as far as DSO is concerned to help them deliver their net zero carbon aspirations much earlier than the UK's target for 2050. Now, we publish annually through our distribution future electricity scenarios information about how we see the use of electricity and the use of our network changing between now and 2050. And we've already indicated in the two publications, and we probably will in future publications, that the use of electricity is forecast to double, primarily driven by the use of low carbon technologies, that's heat pumps and electric vehicles. And that's going to mean that we are going to have to provide quite a smart, flexible network to be able to fulfill those aspirations of our customers as they take up low carbon technologies. In addition, we expect to see a number of our customers start to generate their own electricity. That will be domestic and commercial. And then, of course, we will see a significant expansion of the volume of distributed renewable generation that's connected to our network. And I've a few slides later on our DSO roadmap that gives you a bit of a feel for the quantities that we're expecting to connect to the network. But all of that detail is available in our DFES document, which is downloadable from our website. Now, as I explained, it's our responsibility to facilitate our customers' uptake in low carbon technologies, and therefore we need to be ahead of the curve and anticipating what our customers are going to do, so we can actually start to plan and build a smart, flexible network that will serve the needs of our customers between now and 2050. And part of our preparation work is the publication of our DSO strategy documents that we'll talk through later on in this presentation. Because at the end of the day, our real aim is to have a smart, flexible network that actually helps our customers and our local stakeholders prepare and achieve net zero in the Northwest. Next slide, please, Jen. Okay, so the journey to DSO has a long history and is quite extensive as far as the work that organisations and the industry has done. And I thought it was worth trying to provide a bit of that history to give the context of why we've done certain things that we have. So I'm just going to go back a decade and flag the work of the Smart Grid Forum, which was a joint industry-led initiative by was DEC at the time, which is now BEIS and Ofgem, and many publications, many consultations, and actually delivered quite a lot of recommendations of how the electricity networks can change for the future. But one of the key takeaways that we and all the other DNOs took away from that particular work is flexibility is key to affordable low carbon technology adoption. And during that same period, the new innovation work, or the new innovation funding, drove work across all of the DNOs and all of the other sectors in the UK, the energy sectors in the UK, to try and provide flexible projects and flexible products through new innovative solutions. That industry work culminated in lots of engagements with customers, and I could arguably say engaged millions of customers for those projects in GB. Electricity North West did their own series of projects, which are all available to have a look at on our website. But I was personally involved in a number of them, and in our class project in particular, we engaged with over 400,000 customers just as that one project, because it was important to actually check and understand whether those customers were seeing a change because of the work that we were doing to our network. So the DNOs did a massive amount of work to try and create those opportunities for flexibility. And as you would expect, because there was multiple projects, there was multiple solutions. And towards the end of that period, the DNOs themselves and Ofgem recognised what needed to happen was standardisation, that there was a standardisation of how things were promoted to the customer and a standardisation of approach. And that led on to the Open Networks project, which is an ENA initiative, so that's the Energy Networks Association initiative, which started in late 2017, and it was there primarily to try and help the DNOs collectively deliver that standardization. One of the important factors of the Open Networks project is the wide and extensive engagement it does, both on an annual basis and an in-year basis. They have a dedicated advisory panel which has over 40 industry participants from all the different parties across the energy industry, and they help guide and shape the work and the outputs of the Open Networks project. That work is still ongoing. As Electricity North West, we're a fundamental participant and supporter of it, and Ian Povey, who is on the panel later, is extensively involved in all of that type of work. So this is, the Open Networks is another example of where the industry has come together after being kind of split, and to find a set of common approaches and standardization. One of the early things that the Open Networks project did was trying to set down what DSO functions and principles were, and have had a series of consultations, mostly based around what they see the DSO models to be and how DSO will play out in the future. So a number of the key outputs of the work with the DSO was the definition of what's called the future worlds, which was done under the smart grid architecture modeling approach. and they've run through an impact assessment that resulted in a decision that actually the coordination between DNOs and the ESO for the purchasing of flexibility was the right approach for the next few years to come. And in that work, they set a set of principles about openness, neutral facilitation, and consistency of the way that network operators took an approach to buying flexibility, common products, common procurement, and common dispatch and settlement. And that work is continuing as we speak. Now, as part of the Open Networks, they created defined eight DSO functions with a whole range of activities, and that work is available for people to have a look at on the ENA's website. And in August 2019, Ofgem quite helpfully got into the discussion through their position paper on DSO, and they defined 19 functions with a range of activities. And I'm aware that in their recently published sector-specific methodology, they've gone a bit further and provided a bit more information on roles and principles and expected baseline performance for the submissions to the business plan for ED2. And that will help the DNOs collectively think about and individually think about the work for the remainder of ED1, and then what type of activities and functions are they going to perform in ED2. Okay, so the last publication that we did, or the last DSO publication that we did, was in 2017, and we recognised that it was we would take this opportunity to refresh our DSO strategy. Our local stakeholders have heard recently quite a lot of information from Electricity Northwest on our decarbonisation plans. And because of that, we've had some comments about the blurring between what's decarbonisation and what's DSO. And actually, in some cases, we've had some comments that kind of said that they were contradictory. So this is our opportunity to try and be clearer on what our DSO strategy is and how that fits in with our decarbonisation plans and how all of this is joined up, particularly about how our DSO strategy drives our IT roadmap. And how does that play into what is now the industry standard digital strategy and digital strategy action plans. Okay, so this is the way that we look to articulate through this picture how all of these things fit together. So as an organisation, we are committed to facilitating the delivery of net zero carbon. And we've created these three action themes of stimulate, facilitate, and do efficiently. And all of the work that we do fits under these three broad action themes. As you can see, our decarbonisation plan, or more specifically, our leading the Northwest to zero carbon, is on the left and fits fairly squarely under stimulate, but boils into facilitate. And our DSO strategy fits under the facilitate and do efficiently. That is clearly supported by our grid digitization and data strategy, and that links directly to what we are doing as far as our digital strategy, or the company's digital strategy. So bear in mind, the company's digital strategy is much wider than just DSO. So this is a significant part of it. And of course, the piece underneath, the cyber resilience, is really quite an important aspect of the work that we need to do as our IT changes to help us facilitate that delivery of net zero carbon. So in this afternoon session, we're going to talk primarily about our DSO strategy and our grid digitization and data strategy, but these documents are available on our website for you to go and download and have a look at. So these are the three documents that we've published recently. our DSO strategy, our analysis of DSO functions, and our grid digitization and data strategy. We wrote a series of documents originally, and we tested them both internally with our experts and actually spent a bit of time talking to our customer engagement group. And we got some feedback that actually we needed to have a separate DSO strategy and a separate technically detailed set of information around our DSO functions, which is why you see a split between the DSO strategy and the analysis of DSO functions. So the DSO strategy is designed for anyone and everyone to read, and for all of those geeky technical people out there, the analysis of DSO functions is there for people to delve into the detail and actually have a look at a lot of our plans and the details of our plans. And then the third in the series, the grid digitization and data strategy, explains about how are we going to change the network through the systems that we employ, and then how do we make that data that's available, how do we make data that we use to make decisions on our network, how do we make that available for others to look at, making sure that we deliver the recommendations from the Energy Data Task Force. Okay, so let's spend a bit of time in just delving into each of these documents individually. So the first one is our DSO strategy. It broadly set out where we see the future going, how we are spending money and effort in predicting the future through our forecasting methodologies. We're recognizing that decarbonisation and the journey to DSO is a national challenge. And when I say a national challenge, it is for the responsibility of all the industry to actually deliver net zero through how we facilitate distribution system operation. We recognise the regional opportunity that we have, and also the importance for Electricity Northwest to help support the delivery of the regional aspirations that our local stakeholders have to achieve net zero much sooner than the government targets. And originally, when we set out on our DSO journey, with the use of our stakeholders, they helped develop a set of 6 guiding principles, and we talk through what we've done recently on those 6 guiding principles. So these are the 6 guiding principles. I won't spend time going through them, but in the document, we explain how the work that we've done achieves the 6 guiding principles that we have, but we're also asking for feedback on whether these are the right blend, the right detailed guiding principles, or whether anyone would like to make some comments or not, because we believe that they are the right ones, and we believe that we're doing the right thing, but we're seeking feedback from our stakeholders and our customers. Is this the right balance between all of the 6 guiding principles? So in our strategy document, we publish this roadmap. This gives a flavour of what the drivers are. So top line talks about all of those external drivers. So if you look towards the end of ED2, and I'm probably asking you to see a bit of detail that is difficult to see, but if you believe me that by the time we're getting towards the end of ED2, we're likely to have around 2 to 3 gigawatts of renewable generation connected to our network, and we're likely to see about 500,000 EVs driving around the Northwest. And just to pick up some of the really important things that we are delivering to help us facilitate our journey to net zero. This year we will implement our NMS system, and that will be closely followed. Sorry, NMS system, I mean a network management system, which we've refreshed, and that's going to give us the capability to follow on fairly quickly a new system-wide active network management system that will allow us to manage customers, their operations on our network going forward into the future. Okay, so the next document is the analysis of DSO functions. As I said earlier, Ofgem published in August 2019 their position paper on DSO and provided lots of information on the key enablers. We have taken that template, so those 19 functions that Ofgem defined were split across 3 themes. We've taken those 3 themes and 19 functions, and we've created our own impact assessment of how we would achieve, or what would be the requirements to achieve those DSO functions. So at a fairly high level, we go into detail about what changes to business processes, what changes to IT systems, and this is all about trying to provide the detail of the things that we will do so we can continue the journey to DSO. The next slide covers a template of one, but what I will say is that we have used the 19 DSO function from Ofgem because it was an easy thing to do as we both try and explain what it is that we're doing in the DSO space, but also to help prepare internally the business plan submission for ED2. So we would welcome feedback on the information that we've provided there, because it will be used to go to what our ED2 business plan submission would be. We've made the cross-linkage between the open networks functions. So if you remember, I said there was a difference in the way that the open networks had 8 and the 19 functions that were defined by Ofgem. So we tried to show the cross-linkages between those functions and the activities on each of those areas. So this is the 19 functions as pictorially shown by, I mean, you can see across the 3 themes of long-term planning, operations, and market and settlements. And the colour coding is to indicate or help the DNOs think about what is currently existing, what of those functions can be extended from what's done now, and which of those are new. So you can see some quite new functions there and our business plan submission will have to try and think about where we are now and where we'd like to get to, which is, as you delve into the detail, it's trying to give a bit more information about what needs to change in Electricity Northwest to achieve those either extended or new functions in those spaces. So here's an example of one of the functions. You can see it talks about a description, what our current activities are, and what our future positions like to be. It talks about the digitization requirements, and then at the bottom, although the numbers are left blank at the moment because we're still working up what it is that we believe it will cost as far as ED2 is concerned, but we're trying to helpfully show where this particular function fits into Ofgem's framework for ED2. So those coloured pictures in the bottom left are an indication of the areas that Ofgem have flagged for their price control, so their framework for their price control for ED2. And then right at the bottom, this is where we've provided some information between the crossover of this function that's defined by Ofgem, and this template function that's defined by Ofgem, and then the work, both the functions and then the products that have been delivered in open networks. Okay, moving on to the third of the documents. This is our grid digitization and data strategy. This is where we provide a lot more information about how we see our network management system changing, what it will do in the future, how we are taking a lot of the things that we've done as innovation into business as usual to deliver that smart and flexible distribution network of the future. And more importantly, how are those systems and those processes will release the data that we can then share with all our customers and stakeholders as part of the requirements to fulfill the Energy Data Task Force recommendations. It's broken very simply into those three sections of network control, customers, and the networks, and goes into information about how changes will happen to systems, we expect changes impacting on customers, how we will actually start to think about publishing data, and then what are the likely changes for the various voltage levels of the network. So what will happen at the low voltage network as far as monitoring is concerned, how do we increase the automation on the HV network, and then how do we take the information that we've already got from the various parts of our network and start to publish that information so people can use it in ways that we've probably not thought of already. On the 6th of July, we published these three consultation documents on the right-hand side that I've just, left-hand side that I've just spent time talking through. But we also took the opportunity to publish at the same time another consultation on our distribution future electricity scenarios. And this was primarily to gain information or feedback on the inputs that we use for forecasting. A bit about the methodology, but primarily which are the inputs that we should take more into consideration or less into consideration. So it's out there. The consultation closes this Friday. If you get an opportunity to have a look at that, that'd be fantastic. But I recognise it's a big ask, because with that's like 4 consultations that we're looking for you to have a look at on our behalf. And then the 5th one was a series of blueprints for decarbonisation pathways for the 3 regions that we serve across the Northwest. So a pathway for Greater Manchester, a pathway for Lancashire, and a pathway for Cumbria. That work was done in conjunction with Cadent Gas and came out of the work that was done at an industry level under the ENA between the gas and electricity networks. And it gives a bit of an indication of when likely technologies are going to appear in the future. Could be a potential pathway to net zero for those 3 regions of our network. Okay, so we're really keen on getting your feedback. We need to understand what your expectations are from us. We need you guys to tell us what we've written in our various consultations is right or not right, or you would like more detail or not like more detail. And we're really interested in understanding whether you think our plans will benefit customers. We've had some consultations previously in the past and had some really positive feedback, but this is the first time that we've gone into a significant level of detail, and it's intended to try and help us steer our DSO journey for the next 2 to 5 years as we move from now ED1 into ED2. By all means, please spend time having a look at them, and if you've got any questions, all the information's on our website. You can contact us and we'll be happy to speak to anyone who's got any particular comments or questions. But we've got a series of online questionnaires to fill in for each of the consultation documents that we've published. Our intention is to, once the consultation closes in September, is to take all of that feedback and refresh those documents and publish them towards the end of the year. That will then help us generate our ED2 business plan for DSO in preparation for the initial submission in July 2021. Okay, so I'm now going to stop talking and I'm going to hand back to Jane. As I said earlier, Ian's joining me on the panel, and I'm hoping we're going to see him on screen and he's going to wave to us soon. So I'm going to hand over to Jane, who's going to lead the questions that Ian and I are going to try and answer on your behalf.
Okay, well, we've got a question here that I think even I can answer. The first one, when do the different consultations close? I think we just mentioned that the DFES one closes on Friday, doesn't it?
Yep, closes the 7th.
And I know the others are closed on the 9th of September, so that's all the DSO documents that Simon discussed.
Okay, great.
I've got a question here. Was there a specific reason why LCR authorities were invited to participate today?
That's a really good question, and I think I'll take that. We had quite an extensive set of stakeholders that we wanted to try and reach, local authorities being one of them. So there wasn't just local authorities who were invited to this call, there was lots of regional stakeholders, some individual customers, and a whole range of organisations that potentially talk on behalf of our customers. So it wasn't just specifically targeted to local authorities, but we're welcome to, for anyone who could help us provide feedback on our plans. So it wasn't a particular push towards local authorities, although we recognise local authorities play a really important role because generally they're the ones who have the aspirations for achieving net zero by particular times between now and 2050.
Could you say a bit more about how you are looking at fulfilling the principles if everyone's included?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'll take that rather than handing over to Ian. It is one of the areas where we recognise that the DSO strategy and all of the detail is really quite difficult to understand. So we have tried, because we've had feedback from a whole range of different people, to make the DSO strategy document as simple as possible to read and comment on. We have made effort to try and think about how we ensure that our communications around DSO, because DSO in itself is quite complex, so how our communications are simple and easy to understand without any of the jargon. And that's particularly difficult in this industry, given there is a significant amount of jargon. But we are trying to think about how we would fulfill that principle of everyone's included by trying to make our communications simple and easy, and using simple examples of how a potential change, let's say, for example, on our active network management system, what would that impact be to a range of different types of customers that are connected to our network? I think we've got a lot to learn, and we're happy to take any comments from everyone, because it's really important everyone's included in this DSO journey.
Another question here. In terms of the current COVID-19 pandemic, how do you see this impacting upon the business plan process and future forecasting?
Yeah, I'll take that one rather than hand it over to Ian. So that's a really good question. We are currently going through our forecasting process for this year. The consultation which I spoke about earlier, which for our distribution future electricity scenarios, is out there at the moment. It provides a bit more information about the inputs that we take and who do we take information from, and what type of information that we take from. COVID-19 pandemic plays quite an interesting challenge for us as an organisation, because everyone will be aware, since lockdown, the pattern of demand and generation has changed quite fundamentally across our network, and the financial forecasts for the future that are coming out of central government and other interested industry parties are showing that it's likely to have a significant impact on at least the next 18 months of how the UK GB recovers from the pandemic. So we are taking lots of information in, and trying to process how that actually changes our forecasts for the future. We answered a similar question from a customer recently, which was around what financial information do we use as far as forecasting is concerned. And we take lots of information from the Office of Budget Responsibility, published by...
Yeah. How is the NWL engaging with flexibility providers to ensure their services are included in the DSO toolkits?
Yep, that's a really good question, and I'll take that one because my team are responsible for the publication of our forecasts through the DFARS and all of the other information on forecasts that we publish, and also purchasing flexibility. We have and we publicize all of our flexibility tenders on our website. We give the opportunity for workshops with flexibility providers, which tries to give them through the website early warning of the likely areas where we will be looking for flexibility tenders. So if you went and looked at our website, you'll see there's one in play at the moment, and there's some plans for ones to come in the autumn period. So you'll be able to see them. We try and engage with them through the newsletters and workshops, so they can tell us whether we are doing the right thing and providing the range of information that they want. A good practical example of that engagement that we've had is at the last workshop, people asked us about would we publish the data. So we gave in previous tenders charts through the tender documentation, and they asked us we would provide all the base data, which we've now started to do for all our tenders. So we're really keen to actually get that engagement up and running, actually help our flexibility providers engage with us and start to give the services that we know they can provide to us. Okay, next question.
We have another question that somebody else has already answered, so perhaps save your job. When are comments on the Carbonisation Pathways and Energy Blueprints for GM plants be due by, which has been answered by a participant, saying that Cadence Decarbonisation Pathways is not out for consultation. We are though having a session on it at the next sustainability panel meeting on the 18th.
Yeah, it's not technically a consultation, but to be honest, we are more than happy if anyone wants to have a read of them and comment. That work's been led by Helen Boyle, who's our Strategic Decarbonisation Manager. But if you went to that part of the website, there'll be a link for you to provide comments, or you can go to the DSO part of the website, and we're more than happy to take comments to the approach that's defined on our website. Again, we're looking for feedback on all of this.
How is the NW considering the future needs of hard-to-reach customers and those in vulnerable circumstances?
Yeah, that's a really good question that I'll try and attempt to answer. We recognise that's really difficult. We are going to try and a number of ways. We're going to one of our panels in the near future to discuss options about how we can make sure that any of those hard-to-reach customers do get the opportunity to actually feed in their comments to our DSO documentation and our decarbonisation approaches. I don't think it is easy. I think it's really difficult. And in some cases, we would need to use third parties who represent those hard-to-reach customers to help us work through that. How do we get feedback from those customers to make sure that they aren't left behind as we go through our DSO journey?
Another question. Please, can you say a bit more about what you are doing to stimulate and facilitate LCT adoption?
Yeah, that's a really good question that it's probably only fair that I pick up as well. So we're getting a bit of an easy ride today. Can we have some questions for Ian, please? The work that Helen Boyle is leading on decarbonisation we've done a series of engagements through some consultants to help us think about what would be the key messages and simple things that customers, different types of customers, can do to at least start the journey for LCT adoption, or in principle start the journey to net zero, because there will be a requirement on all of our customers across our region to actually start to think about how they change their behaviours, or how they start to think about lowering their own carbon footprint. So there is a significant body of work that Helen Boyle has led, which is available to actually look on our website. And at the same time, what we've done as a company through our Leading the Northwest to Net Zero work is that we have started to publish the information of the things that we're doing, so they can be uses of exemplars to show others that it isn't as difficult. It is pretty straightforward, those things that you can do. So you'll see on our website that information that looks about we are decarbonising our offices and depots, the work that we're doing to think about changing our fleet to electric vehicles, what we're doing for our employees to try and encourage them to switch from petrol and diesel to electric vehicles. There's a whole range of things that we have available for people to actually look at and use as examples that they can take into their own business.
The details on the government's Green Homes Grant announced today is going to fund air source heat pumps. Is the network ready to cope with the sudden increase in installations?
That's a really good question. I'm not aware of the Green Home Grant announcement from yesterday. What I can say is we've got the appropriate processes in the business for when people do bring forward installations to change their heating sources. There is capacity available across all our networks. It's just dependent on what's happening in your particular location, whether we've got the capacity that already available or whether we need to do something with the network. But all the processes for how you would connect a new heat pump to our network are available through the various pieces of information on our website. So I think it's probably sensible to say no more than that and actually go and read a bit more about what the announcement was, and then we'll provide a more detailed answer to that question at the once we publish the this recorded webinar.
Okay, I think that's all the questions, and we're running towards the end of the webinar now. If you would like to take part in our poll, that would be helpful. I'm going to make that available in a moment. Thank you very much for taking part. If you could just, I will circulate a link in the next few days, which will have a copy of the slides and a recording of the webinar. And we'll send an email to everybody who registered with those details of where that information is available. I'm going to open the poll now, so if you could spend a couple of minutes on completing that for us, that would be very helpful. Thank you very much.